applications, and even for things that are relatively IT-oriented, stats this high, that could never be people byte. They are huge organization, multi-billion-dollar projects, and they get contracted into large organizations to produce things like the 3G network and things like that. So when you're building roads and 3G networks and things that require substantial infrastructure without really the ability to change it afterwards, this makes sense. But for things like the internet, it doesn't. And so CCITT created X25, which was their version of the packet network, and a bunch of people at MIT and other institutions created TCP/IP and the modern internet, and they were completely different. Because what they did is they stripped threw that away, and they said, you can participate without asking permission. In fact, all of the small teams that were working on it weren't really professionals necessarily in those fields, and everything was flat. Everyone could participate, but it was a meritocracy. The Internet Engineering Task Force uses this word, rough consensus running code. It just build it and figure it out as we go along. It turns out it's exactly the way it works at the Media Lab. You don't sit around and argue about whether something has merit or not. You just build it, and then building it creates a rigor around which you can develop things. Sometimes we get things wrong, like we run out of IP addresses or we didn't anticipate spam. But overall, the internet has evolved in a way that makes it clear that it was okay that it wasn't planned, and it was actually agile, and it won against those planned networks. And so it's become somewhat of a religion to me, this idea that you don't have to know the whole of it. And the other thing that emerged, which is interesting, was a stack of open standards that are run by non-governmental agencies. These are relatively small nonprofits who create the standards that run the internet or run the web, and the organization that I ran, Creative Commons, which is creating interoperability at the copyright and content layer. But what this did was it allowed, so you literally have teenagers participating in all of these things, creating the code. And what happens is that by allowing, again, many of you are probably too young for this, but I remember when you had to have government permission to connect anything to the phone network, like your modem. There was no permission. You had to have permission to innovate. This is